Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our council meeting. Welcome to all councillors, directors, other staff, and welcome to the public here today. I'd like to start by welcome to the country. I'd like to acknowledge the Narungga people, traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. I'd like to see if you could stand for the prayer, please. Lord, we ask for your blessing on this council. May we all work together to advance the well-being of our communities. Grant to each of us the wisdom to know what is right and the courage to do what is good for all. We ask this blessing. Amen. We're down to leave of absence. We've got Councillor Meyer and Councillor Gray who have a leave of absence and they won't be here tonight. We have a conflict of interest. Anybody? I'll think about it. There are no apologies tonight. Conflict of interest. Nobody? Thank you. We move to the minutes of the previous meeting. Somebody like to move they be accepted? Councillor Scott.
Sorry. I just have a question with regard to the ordinary minutes. I'd like to propose an adjustment to the minutes. So just in section 22.1, I had moved to lay a matter on the table, and I just wanted to include there that it was due to a request for further information from Northern Waterhouse. So that we sought clarification. So that's why that motion was put forward, so that it wasn't captured in the minutes. So I appreciate that was captured.
Oh, right, okay. Would somebody like to move the second? Will that include, would you like to move that?
Can I move that myself?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
And second, by Councillor Murdoch. Those in favour? Thank you. Yes. So would somebody like to move the minutes?
Sorry,
That's the ordinary. We just add it to that. We're going to move that.
yes, we just moved it with the
With the, no, okay. Yes, yes. Right.
So that's okay.
And now we'll go to the confidential council meeting on the 11th of June. Would somebody like to move that? We accept. Councillor O'Connell, second by Councillor Clerk. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, we're going to just have a bit of a change with our agenda, and in 22.1, we're going to move that up to now, and we're going to seek leave from the meeting to do that, and we're going to set 1 hour, we're obliged to set 1 hour aside for any people that want to speak to that motion. And we have to have a leave of the meeting to do that. Councillor, just a show of hands. Thank you. Okay. So we've got 1 hour now. Yes.
So just in relation to 22.1, we need to set aside 1 hour for any public submissions. So the reason that to bring them forward, so as the motion is moved, the time will start.
Councillor Dibner, second by Councillor Boyle. Those in favour? Carried. All right. So we move down to motions on notice. Well, Councillor O'Connell, you'd like to speak to that?
Oh, thank you, Acting Mayor. I've written a bit of a summary in there already with the recommendations that follows, but just a bit more about, to speak about, I'll just do it as an example, but of course it goes far wider than that. school communities, small communities. In Inverberg we have the CFS, which have done all our road closures for our community events in the past. They put increasing pressure on the community to get people trained to actually do that role because they're struggling to get it done. Under the new rules, I know the council obviously had to meet with these, but to have a traffic controller, 20 hours of training plus other things, to have a traffic management implementer is 20 hours of training plus the 3 different traffic scenarios that have to passing, plus then you've got to have a personal traffic management design which approves, which will be something outside. There's a 12 to 18 month sort of to look at small communities, what we try to do to actually manage traffic for our events. There's 12 to 18 months they're looking at trying to get some rules for volunteers to satisfy things, but it doesn't allow for the things in the interim at all. So we've got all those events, and I think for example, we've got the Anzac Dawn service, David Burgess, Patrick Carrot, by the sea of 4 events just there, and this will be replicated across our peninsula, things which will be difficult to run unless you've got people in place, and to get the training is just so difficult. I've spoken with Fraser Ellis, and I know he's heard from other people too, but and he's taken that through the parliamentary side to see what they can sort of fast track through things. The Inverberg Progress Association, I know they're writing to all the other progress associations and trying to get them on board to put pressure on to get something done in the shorter term, so this is achievable. To have training, that's no problem, but have something that's more achievable than what they have now posed, and it's really a case of getting the council on board with that. Would be much appreciated. So I guess I'd like to move that recommendation as motion.
So Councillor Stoney, you want to speak?
Oh, sorry, if you had some.
I did. And so you want to move that the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Right. And the recommendation is that council will look into a way of supporting community to get those qualifications.
Yes.
That basically.
Get achievable qualifications in the short term, not sort of down the track, but in the short term. I think the more community support there is from various organisations and including council, the better chance we have of getting something that allows communities to run their normal events they want to run with a management plan that's more achievable than what's been proposed.
Right. And do we have a second of them?
I just have a question actually, and if I might request leave of the meeting, and I'm not sure if it's I'm putting Chris on the spot, but we've received quite a bit of correspondence from Bobby with regard to the new changes that are going to be implemented. I think the 1st of whether it's January 2027, I think. So there's a bit of time, but I think in the interim didn't we win an award for what we've done to put these practices in place, I believe. So maybe one of the staff might be able to explain what we've done so far to be able to support the community, and if it is possible for us to support volunteers and how we would go about it. Because I'm not quite sure how what steps we need to take, I guess. So I guess by putting forward the recommendation, we don't want to put staff in a position where they haven't actually got the ability to provide the support that we might be expecting. So just to get a bit more background, I guess.
Just to clarify, there was no expectation on the staff from that email from Bobby, and I spoke to another council on the West Coast too, that they're flat out getting their own staff accredited. So it wasn't an expectation of the council staff, it was more a case of just the principal support from council that we need recommendations for small communities when they're doing traffic control by volunteers in the community, that the training they need to have is achievable and practical for their situation, is not an expectation on staff.
Councillor Stott, I think you're talking generally, and Councillor O'Connell was talking about the small communities having the ability to get that training and get those qualifications. Is that right? Sorry.
Just while I start, does Chris, Andre, or or Anne, wish to add anything there, just in relation to, I know the training was specific in terms of getting some of our staff up to date when we couldn't get the providers over.
Yeah, sorry, it's been a pretty problematic journey, and it's very onerous on us. How we can support the community going forward. I've taken on notice. I'm just not too sure how we're going to do it. Like, I think from what I wasn't involved with that email, but from what I've seen of it, a lot of that was to do with the stop-go. So, if we were doing training at that time, we could potentially provide resources to help the community to get them through the system. But everything's sort of been handed to us by a third party, you know, but we're dictated by them of what we've got to go through. It's a very onerous process. Yeah, I'm not too sure what to I might have to take it on notice and have a bit more in-depth chat with Bobby about it.
I agree with Councillor O'Connell, and just as a point on this matter, Argos and Progress came to me last Christmas and said they have to abandon their street party Christmas celebrations because they couldn't get a local person to do the controlling, and it was going to cost them thousands to bring someone over from Adelaide. I don't know where they got the person from on the peninsula that they got around, but there's definitely a problem, and we need to support our community towns so they can have those celebrations. It's not just Christmas, it's all sorts of different functions like Anzac Day especially. Anyway, do we have a seconder for Councillor O'Connell's recommendation? Councillor Littner, do you want to speak?
I'm happy to second it, but also speak. We're not unique in this situation. It would be affecting Metropolitan as well as regional council. So whether this seeking regulations and requirements that were more practical could be done through the LGAs, or perhaps they are already. And yeah.
Sorry, that's what Metropolitan's a little bit easier, where the company's already set up, so they can bring contractors straight in and get on and do it. We don't have that ability here, and neither do the community groups. Now, this has been put on us by the state government. Andre, was only South Australia across? Was there one other state in the country that took on these? The others haven't.
Yeah, look, it's my understanding that there's probably only one other state, like New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, they bowed out of this national framework, so they're all doing their own thing in terms of traffic control requirements. So, for whatever reason, South Australia seems to have been wanting to try and stick with the framework. So maybe that's something that can be a work in progress if there's enough advocacy, you know, from the LGA and the like, to put pressure back on the Department of Infrastructure and Transport to try and be realistic with the people that, you know, the country areas that have to deal with this at the end of the day. Like, you know, Chris mentioned about just a moment the onerous extent of training on our part. I mean, it seems like we've had a revolving door of training happening in the last 12 months. It seems like every couple of months we're sending somebody or a number of our staff to work zone traffic management training just to get the basic ticket to be able to hold a stop-go battle or to set up any sort of signage whatsoever. And we've had to flag in terms of traffic management design, that's the next level up. You know, who in our organisation will be given that training. So, look, ultimately we don't want to make community members traffic management designers. I would have thought if push comes to shove and we have, and you know, we could possibly help the community with some traffic management designs, but I would hope that ultimately common sense could prevail in terms of the amount of training that community members are needed to have to go out and, you know, basically set up some basic signage once they've been given a traffic management plan. So I think that's partly the way forward. That's possibly where council might be able to support the community, but can make those determinations. Really, I think there needs to be some high-level advocacy at the LGA level to DIP to try and bring them to the party.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Those in favour of this recommendation? Carried. Okay, we move on to 11, which is petitions for questions without notice. This one. Questions on notice 9.1. Questions on notice received from Councillor Meyer. Would somebody like to move that? To accept that? Councillor Stoll, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Those in favour? Carried. No questions. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Stoll.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. I've actually got two questions, if that's all right. The first one, it just relates to the annual business plan and the FTE for the organisation. So in 2024, it was recorded that we had 119 FTE, and then in the annual business plan for this year, it states that we have 127 FTE, which I thought seemed like it was a fair increase there. So I checked that with staff, and the actual figure is 119.4, I believe, for 2025. So it seems there's some discrepancy in what's recorded in the annual business plan. So could we just look into how that discrepancy's come about and just clarify that we have got the right numbers, or if it's not the right number, what it should be? That's the first question. Thanks.
We'll take that on notice.
Yep, thank you. And the second question is just with regard to a code of practice. The questions come to me about a code of practice for our council meetings, and I did find that we have got a policy number 015, which is access to council and committee meetings and document code of practice, but it doesn't actually include in that the code of practice for questions on notice or questions without notice. So I just wanted to clarify whether that should be included in that particular policy, or whether there should be a separate code of practice that encompasses all of the meeting procedures.
I'm taking on notice, and we'll chase that up.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions without notice? Thank you. Now we move to petitions now, and we have a visitor to our meeting. Charmaine Kimber is going to speak to the petition that's going to be put next. So welcome, Charmaine.
Thank you.
Firstly, I'll read out the petition. This is regarding the proposed Port Vincent Marina development. Yorke Peninsula Council Administration is actively supporting the developer of the proposed Port Vincent Marina development without resolution of the elected members. Council Administration appears not to represent the interests of the community, but rather the interests of the developer. Our concerns: Council Administration is engaging actively to support development without a resolution of elected members. Council Administration is engaging actively to support a development that has no proven tangible benefits for the community and ratepayers. Expensive senior management council employees are wasting their time working on and presenting the proposed project, including their concepts, to elected members on behalf of the developer at cost to the ratepayer. Council's public consultation failed to meet the minimum conditions as set out in the Minister's practice directions, non-compliant signage not erected to ensure that notice of the development was reasonably apparent to members of the public. Council administration is withholding information that a substantial area of community land will potentially be lost as the developer does not have sufficient land for the car park spaces required for the project. Ratepayers' financial contributions to the development have not been disclosed and are potentially not known to council administration. For example, the upgrade to the CWMS and car parking. Council administration is, as usual, delaying the required public consultation to amend the management plan for community land. There is no verified information about the track record of the developer, and that should be of particular concern to everybody. The petitioners therefore request the following from Yorke Peninsula Council: that CEO Andrew Cameron be directed by a resolution of elected members to immediately refrain from undertaking any work for the developer other than required by statute, to immediately provide all available information on council records in respect of the development in an accessible format on the council's website, to immediately undertake the required public consultations level 4 according to Council's Community Engagement Policy P5057 to amend community land management plans, to refrain from undertaking any further action in this matter until the result of the public consultations have been received and properly considered by elected members. I respectfully ask now for the entirety of what I say now to be recorded in the minutes of this council meeting. My reason for the request is so that there will always be a reference in the hope that the same mismanagement doesn't keep being repeated. I call the public, is that okay, Andrew? I would like the entirety of what I say now to be recorded.
Need a resolution from the chamber.
So what do I do? Move a motion for that?
You can't move a motion.
No.
It needs to come moved and seconded and then carried to be included. So you're requesting that what you've just read out be included, even though it's in the, yeah, okay, I understand what you're
But it's more so the following because
For the minutes,
what,
yes.
that's already in the minutes. The petition is already in the minutes
So the
because I
agenda,
emailed
yep,
it to you.
okay. Yep. So what you're saying is that it would need someone to move, and someone to second, and then be carried for verbatim what you then.
And will that happen after I speak or before?
It's entirely up to the chamber. Need a motion.
Okay,
So I need a motion, and then a motion, someone moved and seconded and carried to be recorded, and we would record it. The motion in there is to receive the petition as per the policy. To receive another petition, so what Charmaine is asking is for that to be recorded in the minutes, because only the motion that's moved and carried will be recorded in the minutes. That's right, that's, yes.
You want me to?
This part now to be word for word, though.
Yes. That's what she's requesting.
You have been moved then? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Stubbs? Those in favour?
Thank you.
Against? You voted in favour, Councillor Stubbs.
Yeah, sorry, did you call against?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said.
So we'll do it, we'll go again.
Go again.
And
Sorry.
those in favour of this resolution? Thank you. Against? Thank you.
That's carried.
That's carried.
Thank you.
Shannon, I can grab that off you.
Yes, I can email it to you
Oh,
if you
okay.
do.
Just to make sure.
Thank you. I called the public meeting on the 7th of June 2025 at Port Vincent because I have heard elected members ask questions which showed little, if any, knowledge about the Port Vincent Marina and how it is used. And yet those people are making decisions on behalf of Port Vincent ratepayers. About 115 people attended the public meeting. Many had shared with me that they have been trusting that our council will make good informed decisions on their behalf. I had to let them know that that is not necessarily the case. To quote the Local Government Act, Chapter 2, Clause 6A, Council is to act as a representative, informed and responsible decision maker in the interests of its community. Yet not one Gunflat Ward elected member, most notably our own resident member, was in attendance. Elected members took on the responsibility of representing ratepayers and making decisions on behalf of ratepayers, yet no elected member attended the meeting. I felt I had no choice but to hold the meeting to inform as many as possible what has taken place today and then represent the Port Vincent community myself with a signed petition which was quietly left on the table at the side of the hall without mention. So I wasn't promoting the petition, it was just there. Firstly, I continue to have empathy for Gemma Wright, who, along with her husband, has inherited what has become for them a debacle. Had the plans of the original purchaser of the commercial land complied with the regulations way back in 2006, there would already be a thriving business operating on the land in question. As an owner and director secretary of Adelaide Civil Proprietary Limited, I've been across the planning that took place for the Port Vincent Marina since the early 1990s. Adelaide Civil had already successfully completed many contracts for the developer, John McDonnell, in South Australia and Queensland, and he invited us to be equal partners as the construction provider of a joint venture with Terry Lillis, who was John's brother-in-law and Gemma's father, providing the finance to enable the venture to proceed. In the late 1990s, John asked me to set up the joint venture company Paradise Developments, Port Vincent Proprietary Limited, which I duly did. It took years of negotiations with YP Council and all the relevant government bodies and interested parties for the development to be able to go ahead. And in 2003, Council co-signed a document labelled Port Vincent Marina Plan Amendment by the Council. The document detailed the purpose of the commercial land, a zone accommodating a range of marina-based business and service activities to serve the day-to-day needs of the marina and the visiting public. The list of facilities anticipated in the commercial zone included marina office and administrative facilities, shop not more than 50 square metres of floor area, chandlery, tavern, motel, restaurant. The size and range of retail and commercial uses should be limited to those serving the day-to-day needs of marina users and residents of the zone. Retail activities should relate directly to the operation of the marina and should be small in scale. Development within the zone should be designed to achieve a suitable relationship with the cliffs that form the backdrop to the marina. The original planned size for the building on this land allowed sufficient on-site car parking on that same land for that proposed development. Housing allotments were to be built around the marina, with those land sales assisting with the cost of building the marina, and the housing and gardens would also add ambience to the area. The bonus for the council was that the housing would increase rate revenue. No residential or commercial building was to be more than 2-storey with a height restriction. The CWMS and other services were sufficient to meet only those conditions contained in the development plan amendments documents. For 70 single dwelling allotments and a commercial development of 2-storey with tourist accommodation on the 2nd storey. The marina was officially opened by South Australian Governor Marjorie Jackson Nelson in April 2003. John Coleshaw purchased the commercial land and on 28th May 2007, plans were lodged for 9 self-contained apartments advertised on the billboard on the commercial site as Blue Line Apartments, which comprised 2 separate 2-storey buildings, one of which had 3 townhouses and the other 6. In a direct contravention of Council's own Port Vincent Marina Plan amendment, those plans were approved by Council. As primary landholders, John McDonald and Terry Lewis took the matter to the Supreme Court of South Australia, where the Honourable Justice DeBell handed down judgment on the 22nd of May 2008. During the trial, John McDonald kept me updated with the proceedings, and at one stage he told me that the decision to rezone the land was made, and I'm quoting here, in the council corridors by a couple of people. There was no compliance of the regulations when the land was rezoned. The CEO, not you Andrew, it's before your time, the CEO had twice been advised by Council's planning officer that the plans were not compliant, and then advised again in a written report from an independent consultant whose services Council had then engaged at extra expense to the ratepayers. Quoting Justice DeBell's judgment, clause 21, the Council's Development Assessment Panel met on 18 December 2007 to consider a number of development applications. The minutes of the meeting do not record any consideration of the developer's application. Clause 22. On 18 December, the same day as the Council's development plan had met, Mr Ainsworth, acting as a delegate of the Council, granted provisional development plan consent of the proposed development. The mismanagement and reckless decision of that CEO who delegated his power to that council planning officer to have him approve the plans caused the matter to go to a Supreme Court trial on a case the CEO would have known couldn't and wouldn't win. This was a gross waste of council employees' time and also of ratepayers' money. On the 9th of October 2024, I asked Council what was the cost to Yorke Peninsula ratepayers for a Supreme Court action of 2008. The reply I received was, and I'm quoting, the costs attributed to this court action were accounted for in excess of 16 years ago. The information requested is not easily provided. I will further consider the request and respond in due course, but I've heard nothing since. I have not been able to find any verified information for developments that have been completed by Peter Billis. What I did find were 2 proposed developments, one in Victoria Square, Adelaide, and the other a motel at Whyalla, both being expected to be completed by early to mid-2024. To date, no development has begun on those sites. The heritage-listed building in Victoria Square, Adelaide is still the same as it has been for many years. It is highly likely those postings were nothing but smoke and mirrors put on the website purely to give himself some credibility. After the trial, John McDonald purchased the commercial land back from John Colshaw. At some time later, John McDonald told me he had health issues, and eventually Terry Lewis took over the Port Vincent Marina properties. But family health again got in the way of development. A few years went by, and following the passing of both parents, Gemma inherited the problem that had now been exacerbated by time delays and perhaps also changes to the Development Act. Now with a young family, Gemma's husband Nathan has been handling the development, and in his own words to me, he said he knows nothing about development. He engaged an expert, Peter Billis, to be their consultant, possibly with no knowledge that Peter Billis's involvement in years past had caused so many problems for his uncle-in-law and father-in-law. On the 10th of October 2021, the developers met with Marina residents and presented their proposal for 3-storey and 32 apartments for the Marina commercial land. Residents expressed concern about the lack of car parking in the area plus the added pressure that size development would put on water and sewage services. On the 16th of January 2022, the developer received similar feedback from the general Port Vincent community. But totally ignoring public opinion, in March 2022, Peter Villas lodged a pre-development application, Dockside Port Vincent. The plan was for up to 780 square metres of commercial area and claimed that accessibility, proximity to car parking and outlook have been extremely well considered. The document claims that sufficient car parking for the apartments is provided with an on-site courtyard format. The proposal included expansion of the existing pontoon to accommodate functions for up to 50 people. Sound travels over water, trust me, especially at low tide. At item 5, 132 parking spaces will be required to satisfy the parking requirements of the planning and design code for the proposals. An additional 35 I'm still quoting from his document, an additional 35 car parking spaces for the residential apartments within land holding of the commercial development. Realignment of the trailer boat park adjoining the proposed commercial development is a critical adjustment for the future functionality of the trailer boat park and the viability of the commercial activities. This element is a shared cost with YP Council on an equal basis. The Lillis Group proposes to have car parking on the council-owned land, lot 72, which was designated reserve. At item 6, sewer upgrade proposal, the Lillis Group is open to a contribution of circa 25% of upgrade costs. At the confidential council meeting held 13th of April 2022, the resolution was that council provide in principle agreement to funding 50% of the costs for the realignment of the trailer boat park. Provide in principle agreement for car parking on council-owned land, being lot 72 on the west side of Marina Drive at the developer's cost. Provide in principle agreement for car parking on Breakwater Drive at the developer's cost. Do not contribute to an upgrade to the rising main and current sewer. That was all discussed at a confidential meeting and kept from ratepayers. Then the confidential agenda and meeting minutes were not released 12 months later as they should have been. In fact, those minutes were not released until the council received a written request for their release from Heinrich Vipers in January 2024. Thank you, Heinrich. Port Vincent Town property owners and residents who currently have septic systems are still angry that the council called a meeting and attempted to encourage them to pay many thousands of dollars to go onto the CWMS scheme. With each home already having a perfectly good septic system, it was obvious to locals that they were being coerced to contribute to the cost of the CWMS upgrade for the developer's benefit. Along with the subdivisions that have been approved for the developer by the council for so many previously single dwelling allotments, plus the 72 proposed apartments, the increase in the CWMS capacity needs to be well in excess of double its current capacity. Why should any other property owners have to contribute to the cost of upgrading the CWMS just to satisfy the financial needs of the developer? Community consultation was called regarding lot 72, Community Land Reserve, to be used by the developer to satisfy the car parking requirements. I made a written submission against council allowing the developer to take over community land for their own personal gain. That would set a precedent for this and other developers to do the same. I gave a verbal submission at the council meeting on 11 October 2023 and council voted to leave the land as a community reserve. 12th of November 2024, Peter Villas presented his proposed Memorandum of Understanding at the Council Information and Briefing session. He alleged various groups were already in agreement with his proposal, with absolutely nothing to substantiate that. I wrote to YP Council on the 1st of December 2024. Here is my first paragraph. The dockside development presentation by Peter Villas continues to waste Council's time and therefore, along with that, ratepayers' money in yet another attempt to get his non-compliant plans approved. I believe he hopes to wear you all down until you approve these once again non-compliant plans. Many points in his presentation were not factual, they lacked clarity, and there was a total lack of any evidence to support such claims. The Council would be completely foolish to believe this nonsense without having before them any hard evidence to support the claims therein. Not giving up, Peter Villas arranged one-on-one meetings with elected members over the Christmas holiday period to persuade them to rescind their October 2023 decision regarding the reserve. He also asked me to meet with him to discuss his revised parking plans, but our meeting wasn't one-on-one. He brought with him Ricky Bruin, former CEO of YP Council. You may recall me mentioning earlier that Ricky Bruin was the CEO in the matter that led to the Supreme Court trial. The plans Peter Villas showed me still included him using Lot 72, the reserve, along with other community land in the marina environs to try to meet the parking requirements. During the meeting, when I mentioned the Blue Line Apartments, Peter Villas proudly told me that he had been involved with the Blue Line Apartments. Refer back to the Supreme Court trial. Peter Villas told me he really wanted me on his team and then asked, what do I have to do to get you on my team? History has a way of repeating itself. Peter Villas was the architect back then and the CEO was Ricky Bruin. Those same two people are involved in dockside development. At the January 2024 Council meeting, Councillor Naomi Bittner moved for Council to rescind the motion that Lot 72 be reserved as community land, and her motion was seconded by Scott Boyle. Those two elected members represent Gum Flat Ward. There was no choice for me but to make another verbal submission to protect community land to keep it as a reserve. And I reminded the councillors that their October decision had been made based on public consultation. Councillors had no choice but to keep community land as community land. I was pleased that at that meeting, Councillor Gray asked for a show of hands of how many elected members met with the developer. Dockside Development eventually lodged plans for a development of 5-storey and 72 apartments. Small signs advising of the proposed development were placed at least 1.5 metres back from the footpath on the commercial land, with another small sign on land opposite. The signs were not easily noticeable from the road. I was not the only person who did not notice the signs until I was told they were there, but it was then too late for me to have my say on the application. According to the State Planning Commission Practice Direction 3, which I had already referred to in earlier correspondence, but a copy of which Dustin Guthberg kindly enclosed again with his email to me on the 5th of July 2025, the notice on the land must be placed on or within a reasonable distance of the public road frontage of the relevant land, ensuring that it is visible and legible to members of the public from the road. The relevant authority shall determine the most appropriate position for the notice on the land in order to provide for maximum of visibility from a public road. To ensure that the notice of the development is reasonably apparent to members of the public. They were not compliant. I have now written 10 letters to the council asking them to substantiate how they arrived at their opinion that the signs were compliant. To date, they have still not provided me with any proof, and I believe they are unable to do so because the signs were non-compliant. you can't see them, you can't see them. More recently, at the Council Information and Briefing Session, 30th of April 2025, Peter Villa sat in the gallery while 3 senior council employees gave a presentation to elected members of his redesigned boat trailer parking. He was now trying to add car parks for the proposed adjacent development on land that had been set aside for boat trailer parking. When questioned on measurements, the Director of Assets and Infrastructure Services, Andre Compler, advised there were no measurements of length or width shown, and he said they aren't actual plans, but rather a concept. During the discussion that followed, suggestions for extra parking along Breakwater Road were made with either no idea and or no concern that parking on Breakwater Road is for owners of boats moored in the marina. Councillor Naomi Bittner suggested that the land east of the amenities building could be used for car parking, again with no idea that Cruising Yacht Club erect a marquee there for their events. Our resident councillor said nothing. Is anyone among all of the senior council employees and elected members aware that the Cruising Yacht Club of South Australia holds a very long-term lease over the Port Vincent Marina? I'm of the understanding it was a 99-year lease. Despite the public submission signs being non-compliant, and despite only a few months ago the Waipea Country Times publishing Andre Compler's complaint of struggling to handle his workload and needing extra help, the CEO has persisted in wasting the time of senior employees and elected members with the latest concept that Peter Villas comes up with. 2 days before the public meeting, Peter Villas advised the council that the dockside plans had been put on hold. Yet just 2 weeks later, I saw him meeting with the new Commodore plus another senior member of the Port Vincent Sailing Club at the boat trailer park. Just 2 weeks later. Peter Villas could have arranged a public meeting himself if he had really wanted people to know his plans, but he didn't. The public meeting went ahead on the 7th of June 2025 as planned. I opened the meeting and spoke of the history of events surrounding the marina and to date. Then Cassandra and Robert Storm gave a PowerPoint demonstration with drone footage of the marina being used and the congestion that already occurs near the boat ramps. The drone footage also clearly showed overflow boat trailer parking on the commercial land and at Buttons Beach and elsewhere. Peter Villas stood during Cassie and Robert's presentation, confidently expecting that he could interrupt them, but they continued. And their footage showed everyone very clearly how the boat ramp and boat trailer park are used, and that to reduce any of that space would be detrimental to boat users and deter them from coming to Port Vincent. Let's not forget that the marina was built for boats, and not just for boat numbers of 2005 nor 2025, but also for the future. To reduce the amount of space for boat trailer parking and access to the boat ramps would be disastrous. And I think I've repeated myself here, despite spending many hours researching, I and other ratepayers have been unable to find any developments that Peter Villas has done that have reached satisfactory completion. Following the 7th of June public meeting, wanting to be able to give a balanced report in the Port Vincent newsletter, a focal point, the editor, Sue Hall, wrote to Dockside Development Director Peter Villas on the 8th of July 2025. She asked, I would really appreciate it if you please advise me what you mean in your press release by development application on hold. Council has been formally advised that the dockside development application is being placed on hold to review the application options and work towards the best outcome for Dockside and the community. She asked 4 questions. Will this involve additional community consultation, In particular, what does review the application options mean? Question 2. Have you received a copy of the PowerPoint presentation from this morning? Would you like a copy to take to your designers? 3. Will you address the concerns raised this morning regarding the boat ramp, both safety and general numbers of car, trailer parking, etc.? And 4. Are you able to provide verified information of other developments you have completed? She also wrote, transparency and honesty are, in my opinion, the two issues here, and not responding to the direct questions asked this morning caused some angst from those attending. Would you be willing to answer questions from the community through a focal point? Peter Phillis's reply to Sue was that he preferred her to publish what he presented at the public meeting and was happy for her to give his phone number to people as he preferred to have discussions with people individually. I believe he is nothing short of a time waster. Nathan told me last year that Peter Phillis is a paid consultant to the Lillis Group. This is my personal belief here. I believe that as long as he can keep his plans alive, he is being paid and has weekend stays in luxury accommodation at Port Vincent Marina. He has wasted much time of not only council employees but also elected members. He is costing ratepayers money. Elected members and council employees are in those positions to represent ratepayers, not the constant whims of a developer. I know that everything changes over time, but we will all have regret that this monstrosity of a development was allowed to proceed to the detriment of boat trailer parking, along with manoeuvrability requirements and access to the boat ramp, and future growth in boat ownership, parking for owners of boats moored in the marina, and no regard as to why the marina was built in the first place. The marina was built for boats, not just for the needs of 20 years ago or now, but also for the future. I was pleased when the Honourable Tom Coutts-Thomas rejected the plan for floating houses. The marina was built for boats and for the future. This is the wrong development for the land available and for the location. This mammoth building with its huge car parking requirement would be the wrong development if it was planned for the main street of Port Vincent, or Middleton, or Ardrossan, or Edinburgh, or Maitland. None of you would want this development right next to you with the car parking requirements. It does not belong in a quiet country town, and most especially in a location that would turn the entrance to the marina into a massive car park surrounded by North Adelaide-style congestion. Well away from the town, yes, but not as part of any town in this peaceful regional area. The continued covert behaviour and what appears to be collusion by and between Waipī Council and dockside developers is not acceptable. This same person has proven over many years that he will do whatever it takes to achieve exactly what he wants, with total disregard for regulations. I have been unable to find any verified information. I keep repeating myself, but it really is important, isn't it? Unable to find any verified information about the track record of Peter Phillis. Please let me know if you are aware of any projects of his satisfactorily completed. I'd be interested. I am not against development. I have a development background, but I am against development happening in the wrong location. I am against development that cannot meet its own car parking requirements. I am against development which will severely affect and destroy Port Vincent and its environs. I am against lies, deceit, dishonesty and covert behaviour. I am against mismanagement by our council employees. I am against council's habit of wasting ratepayers' money. Progress is good, so long as that progress is not destructive. The Dockside Development website advertising for the duplex and triplex townhouses that have been approved for what was originally planned as single dwelling allotments, quotes, Port Vincent is a tranquil haven and a vibrant yet peaceful coastal community. But dockside development will destroy that very tranquil haven and peaceful coastal community by their own monstrous development if it goes ahead. Let's get honesty back into our council so we can be proud not only of Port Vincent but also of Yorke Peninsula and our council. The petitioners therefore request the following from Yorke Peninsula Council: that CEO Andrew Cameron be directed by a resolution of elected members to immediately refrain from undertaking any work for the developer other than required by statute, to immediately provide all available information on council records in respect to the development in an accessible format on the council's website, to immediately undertake the required public consultations, level 4, according to council's community engagement policy P057, to amend community land management plans, and to refrain from undertaking any further action in this matter until the result of the public consultations have been received and properly considered by elected members. Thank you all very much for listening. I'd now like to officially present the original copy of the petition, so 57 signatures.
Thank you. Okay. Somebody like to move that we accept the petition. Councillor Johns, seconded by Councillor Clerk. Those in favour? Carry.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, so we move on to 21.1, is the Mayor's report. Somebody like to move that, we accept that recommendation. Councillor Vincent, seconded by Councillor Scott. Those in favour? Carry. New councillor's report, and we move on to the information, sorry.
Did someone just open the door? Open the doors.
Does it have to be?
Okay, so we move on to the information agenda. Councillor O'Connell.
I'm sorry, items 16.4.
Sorry, what number?
16.4, we go down all the way, that could be moved to human justice.
Oh,
It's in the meeting today.
Just like to withdraw.
you would like,
We just like to withdraw.
Withdraw it from, sorry, from the information agenda, and have a place on human justice.
You just normally goes through.
Just withdraw it.
Yeah, you just withdraw it,
Sorry.
and then any other councillors wish anything else to be withdrawn, and then some questions have to be asked. So,
Withdraw.
so yeah, 16.4, yeah.
Councillor Scott.
I'd like to speak to 17.1, please.
16.1.
17.
17.1.
Which is the correspondence from the two working rules. We will start
Oh.
with 16.
Yeah. So just we can start with councillor.
Okay.
Okay, it's just additional information that I did a meeting today at Stansbury. It was organised by the Stansbury Progress Association, and Sam is the chair of that, and the fishermen, so there's a few fishermen there. They've invited Connie Valana, who's the best politician, to come over, and she addressed them about, I guess they're trying to get some extra help for the fishing people, but it's the effect on the whole community, so she was saying, we haven't thought the whole issue, short term.
Excuse me.
We can't hear you. Can you put your
Sorry.
microphone on?
And perhaps bring it closer to you as well.
Yeah, bring it a bit closer. We can't hear what you're saying.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay, that better?
Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
I'll start again.
Thank you.
Stansbury Progress Association, through their president, Andrew Pisani, he invited Connie Benares to come over and talk about the algal bloom and the effect that that's having and I guess the lack of action for businesses and so on in Yorke Peninsula in particular. And Connie was saying that she considered the government thought the issue would be short term but it will go away. And we know it hasn't gone away. She believes there's a poor education campaign from the government. There's been a lack of science about the dangers of being in beaches and swimming in the water. It's been catastrophic on the fishing industry. One fisherman said that his catch has gone from 500 kilograms a day to 20 kilograms. Another one said that this financial year there's only this is in the Gulf St Vincent, 7 kilograms of calamari caught commercially. Now, this financial year sounds a lot, but it's only, this is the 9th day. There's a 500,000 relief package for charter and commercial fishermen, and they want native licences and quotas and so on. And they want to be treated, I guess, like a farming drought, treated the same as that sort of thing, and the same sort of support. So that was from the fishing people. But they wanted to highlight the negative effect that this whole out of balloons having on tourism. We rely on tourism heavily on Yorke Peninsula, and it's having a negative effect on that. You have got people coming for fishing, people are already noticing that already. You can't walk on the beaches the same as you could before, and the effect on small businesses across the board that's happening and will continue to happen further. They want to go get the state government away from just blaming, so it's just climate change and just absolve their responsibility and make it a national disaster that's actually happened. And to do that, they need to put pressure on the state government, and especially the Premier who has the close link with Canberra, and get it onto the federal agenda where they can get some serious, I guess, compensation and support for all our local businesses. Now, just moving forward on that, Standard Progress intend to contact all progress associations from Port Broughton all the way around the peninsula, and they're trying to organise a public meeting here, because it's the biggest hall in Mingleton at some stage. And obviously I'm assuming Connie Benares will be invited and the media will be invited. And I guess it's really lobbying to try and get some sort of support for Yorke Peninsula. So it's really more, it's not a decision making round, it's just more information. So everybody, all the members just understand what's the intentions going to happen from the initiative of the Standard Progress Association. Thank you, that's all, thanks.
Okay. So we move to 17.1, Councillor Stoll.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. We've received, in the agenda there is the letter that we sent to the Rex Minerals, just inquiring or seeking support to rectify the Pine Point Road and Reading Road adjournment to the new highway. I just wondered whether we have any updates from them as to how that's progressing. I've just had further inquiry from the community.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, just clarification from Councillor Stockton, was it a communication from DIT or from Rex or both?
We've got the information in the agenda that we sent to DIT, and whether there's been any correspondence back from them or Rex Minerals to give us an indication of what's the next steps and how they're progressing.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I can confirm that we've received no further correspondence, disappointingly, from DIT other than what is contained within the information report. We have had further update from the stakeholders in Rex, and they are using their contractors, which they're using for other road network, which they're undertaking to resurvey Reading Road, and they're undertaking that as present. And you can see by their commitment that they're happy to do that at their own cost.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything to bring out of the information agenda? No? Well, I need somebody to move a motion that we've received the information here. Councillor Firth, second by Councillor Hull. Those in favour? Carried. go to the debate agenda. And 21 is the CEO's report. And
So draft any business plan report. So we are there, and so councillors, this being an hour, since 6:35, so through the email, I'll just ask, or just confirm any members of the public.
yes, are there any members of the public like to speak to the draft annual business plan and budget? No?
Just call that as nil.
So we can move that.
That side's already moved, we're just going to 22.2.
Okay, all right. 22.2 is fees and charges. Anybody like to speak to that? Councillor Scott?
Oh, sorry, that's all right, I was just going to have Daniel
Yeah.
just provide an update, and we can just go to the next
All
one.
right.
Just for the benefit of the chamber, and all here, you would have received the council agenda went out Friday. There was notice at that time late in the day that there was an error with the attachment, wrong file had been saved over, and I'll put my hand up for that. So that was re-looked at on Monday, and the correct fees and charges register that we're seeking adoption tonight was uploaded to the website, and I believe uploaded to your SharePoint for review. The fees are there unchanged from, apart from some small rounding from what was presented to you at the information and briefing session, so commended to you to adopt.
Thank you. Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'd just like to propose a modification to the fees and charges, just for one item. I'd like to modify the cemetery fees just to include that we would waive the internment right fees for all infants and children of the age 17 and under. So if I could move that as part of an amendment to
With that amendment?
yes, please.
That's right.
Okay. Somebody like to move, you like to move that?
Yes, I'm happy to move that.
Seconded. Councillor Murdoch, those in favour? Carried.
Councillor Slade.
Okay, we move to 22.3, section 270 review, adoption of rate increase. It's currently laying on the table. Would somebody like to move that removed from the table? Councillor Clerk, second by Councillor Oil, those in favour? Carried. Now we have a live motion, and that is the motion was moved by Councillor O'Connell and seconded by Councillor Pittman. Do we have any discussion on that? Councillor Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. I've read this through and through, and I come back to where I was at the last meeting, very concerned about what we're about to deal with. Even though Council had passed to lay the item on the table and seek further clarification, I feel we haven't advanced. I went through the report and all attachments and have read the latest email received from Norman Waterhouse, and I must say this raises even more questions instead of clarifying the matter. I have to read this out to make sure I do not forget important documents, and I ask that the request for these documents is recorded in the minutes. Thank you. Mr. Acting Mayor, I require the Chief Executive Officer to table the following documents of the Council relating to the motion that is before this meeting. Please table the original letter /email to Norman Waterhouse to clarify the scope of the report, request and the information provided to Norman Waterhouse. Second point, please table the letter from Norman Waterhouse clarifying why Norman Waterhouse decided to only offer a response to selected letters submitted by a member of the public stated by the Acting Mayor in his letter dated the 24th of June 2025. Third question, request, please table a copy of the letter of advice received from Norman Waterhouse that was forwarded to the Ombudsman on the 21st of November 2024 by former Mayor Darren Braun. As previously by the CEO by email on the 4th of July to elected members in 2025. Please table the document, point 4, please table the document clarifying why Norman Waterhouse refers to the report under 7.2.4 to public consultation in inverted commas when the Act refers to public consultation policy. Please table, point 5, please table all documents clarifying the communication that has been occurred between Council administration and Kelly Jones partner and Haynes Norton prior to undertaking the public consultation. Point 6, please table documents clarifying the Norman Waterhouse, when providing advice, that we as elected members don't have to listen to the result of a public consultation. Have read the part of the community engagement policy that says, and I quote from that policy, we will work with the community to ensure that concerns and aspirations are directly reflected in the alternatives developed and provide feedback on how that community's input influenced the decision. Point 7, please table documents that clarify on which provision of that Act Norman Waterhouse relies when making a statement that implies that elected members do not have to comply with council policies. I make you aware that I'm unwilling to vote on this motion until the documents are tabled. I may also point out that under Regulation 18 of the Local Government Procedures of Meeting Regulations, the matter must not be put to the vote by the presiding member until the documents are tabled. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Formal motion will need to be moved. Adjourn to a specific time and date. That's my understanding.
Councillor John.
We're certainly not moving forward with this in any adequately whatsoever, and I'm happy to move a motion. I move the formal motion that the question lay on the table until such documents are produced for our consideration, so we can make informed decisions. It's really important. We've got policies and acts and legislation, and I'm not willing to subject myself to the possibilities of being liable.
Any other councillors want to speak to this matter? Councillor,
I'd be happy to second the motion to adjourn the items.
Yeah, so it needs a
adjourn the matter.
needs a formal motion to adjourn until those documents are tabled.
So,
This is
sorry,
my understanding.
Councillor Johns, were you happy to move?
Is that what you want, Councillor Johns?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Must be moved. It can't be by Councillor Johns. It's my understanding.
So councillor, are you prepared to move that we adjourn the matter till the documents are tabled?
Yes, I'm happy to move that.
We have a second. Councillor Moon. Those in favour? Against? Motion lost. So, I'm just getting some guidance here.
Right, so we're back to the live motion.
So we're back to the live motion.
Excuse me, Acting Mayor, could I just call a point of order? Under Regulation 18, if the documents can't be provided and tabled at the meeting, then the matter can't be voted on. So we can't move forward on the basis of Regulation 18.
I think the main procedures provide further clarification. Del, could you just pull that up, please? We want to make sure that we do get it right, Councillor Scott.
Yep, that's fine.
when we can adjourn the matter and it can be brought back.
Just adjourn to a future meeting,
Right.
the next one,
Would somebody like to move that we adjourn the matter to a future
to
meeting?
the following order council.
We can,
To the following order
to
council.
to our following council meeting.
Yes, I'm happy to move that.
Right. We have a second. Councillor Murdoch. Those in favour? Against? Councillor
That's what it's
Move. Carried. Move down to 23.1. Assets and infrastructure, that council. Let me have a look. Recommendation is that the council needs to endorse another councillor for the council's audit and risk committee for the remainder of the current term. And formally, we thank Councillor Meyer for his service to the Yorke Peninsula Council Audit and Risk Committee. Do we have anybody that would be prepared to fill in that role until the end of this current term?
So acting Mayor, do you want nominations for that position, or?
We're asking for a nomination.
Volunteers.
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 Or a volunteer.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Bittner, if that's in order.
That's in order. Councillor Bittner, I thought you would put your hand up if you wanted to do that job. Are you prepared to volunteer?
Yes, I am prepared to volunteer.
It is a very, we are very grateful for you to do that. So we need someone to move the motion that we endorse Councillor Bittner to the Council's Audit and Risk Committee for the remainder of the current term, and formally thank Adam Meyer, Councillor Adam Meyer, for his service. Would somebody like to move that? Councillor Clerk, second by. Okay, sorry, Councillor those in favour? Okay. Thank you. We'll move to 24.1, which is assets and infrastructure services damage to council road network. Is the director, sorry? Yeah, the director like to speak to that?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. Most of you would be aware of the efforts by our grading team to improve the status of the running surface that we drive on. It's not only our gravel roads, but it's also our sealed roads. We've got all our grading crews out, right? Not only 4 maintenance grading crew teams, but also 2 construction teams. They're out there doing the most they can to deliver the best result for council. Now, what we are finding is that we're not necessarily being supported, right, by some of the road users, and I'll say some of the road users. And look, if you look at what is shown in some of those pictures there are people that have machinery that, with a little bit of thought and consideration, right, they can elevate rollers, they can activate hydraulics and just take those rolling implements off the surface. But we're not necessarily seeing that. We're seeing on White Hart Road equipment just drive over guideposts habitually, right? And I witnessed that when I was down there the other week. So I suppose what I'm saying to the wider community is please help us to help you. At the end of the day, we can only do so much. And look, if there's any queries, if people got any queries, hey, we're welcome to take the call. But you know, we're there trying to deliver a service to you, and we would be grateful if you can get the message out there to the people that probably aren't too mindful of these practices. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have somebody to move that recommendation? Councillor Bittner, second by Councillor Scott. Those in favour? Carried. Move to 24.2, which is Marion Bay boat ramp update. Councillor, Director, would you like to speak to this matter?
No, I'm going to leave the recommendation as it stands, and I think the report will just, I'll happy to take questions.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the councillors? Somebody like to move this recommendation? Councillor Stock, second by Councillor Hoyle. Those in favour? Carried. We've got on the services, Neil. General business is Neil. And we move. Is there any general business? Councillor O'Connor.
Just one.
Just put your microphone on.
Sorry. Yes. One item of general business just concerns the Mud Alley situation down there. Mud Alley, I'm sure all the councillors and everyone's up to date with the flooding that's happened down there. They had the first inundation, and the local community got together and did the clean up, and they're very much a self-help organisation down there. Second inundation, the sandbags that we put down there, they helped the southern end from being inundated. The northern end, which hadn't been flooded in 40 years, one person's been there, was flooded. And the second inundation that occurred, the council then went to action with some great logistics and getting some heavy machinery organised to go down there. And I think they worked into the evening. And when I start at the top with Andre and Ian and Chris and all the teams involved in that. So it was quite a logistical exercise to get down there. It was down there. They had, like a number of the residents didn't have, the road was eroded away, didn't have access to their places. Within, I think, a day and a half or thereabouts, you would correct me, Andre, all bar one of the residents down at Mud Alley at Val Bay had access to the house, the repairs have been done. And I just think that I guess that's almost over and above as far as things go to get things done in a timely manner, given the urgency. And I just thank the council very much. I know the residents down there have been very appreciative and passed on that appreciation to council. And if, with your indulgence, I would like to move a motion that something like thank you to the council staff for their prompt action and logistical expertise organising the clean-up and road repairs to Mud Alley, Val Bay, following the recent sea inundation events.
Need a seconder for that, Councillor Hoyle. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, we move to confidential now. We have to move a section. Sorry? Yes, I will. Yes. While that's happening, we need section 9 of 90 order, and I need to add following staff to that order: manager